I've lost several friends specifically to heroin addiction. I had a friend, and during COVID, he relapsed and accidentally overdosed and died. It hurt so much more because it just feels like it was too early and so unnecessary. I was born in San Diego, raised really religious, like had no interest in doing drugs or alcohol or anything like that. And as we start going towards like 8th and 9th grade, suddenly everyone's smoking pot. And I just said no, maybe like 10 times till one day I was like, let me hit that dog. It slowly kind of escalated from there, I suppose. Like pot was super fun for me. Someone said, do you want to try some Red Rock opium? And so did it and felt awesome. And then like a couple months later, I had a buddy who just gotten out of rehab, and he says, hey, just so you know, this isn't opium, right? This is black tar heroin. By then it was kind of too late. I remember him saying like, see if you can go 3 days without it. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I got super, super sick. And I had no idea that I was like a full-blown addict at this point. At the time, it felt like it helped me write songs better, helped me feel more comfortable on stage, to like pawning everything that I owned for it. Getting fired from multiple jobs, stealing from employers, stealing from family members, going to jail like multiple times. I tried every little trick to do it on my own and failed every single time. Everybody was done with me. My mom was like, I'm going to Virginia, you're not coming with me. And it was probably the best thing my mom ever did for me. And so my dad picked me up, and he just starts kind of pumping like recovery into my head and talking to me about spirituality and asking me, pray in the morning like God help me, and at night say thank you for keeping me sober. And I'm like, that's dumb, I'm not doing that. And then he started taking me to some 12-step meetings, and they were like, do you want to move in? And I was like, no, I appreciate it. And my dad's like, what do you have better to do, dude? I remember thinking, and I'm like, nothing. And he's like, please do this. And I moved in, and that's kind of the start of the journey.
Before we dive into today's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor that makes this Generational Health podcast possible, Hiva Health. At Hiva, we're all about helping you live longer, feel stronger, show up better for the people and passions that matter most. Whether it's hormone optimization, medical weight loss, peptide therapy, personal skincare, or gut health, Hiva delivers modern, proactive healthcare that's designed around you. It's fully virtual, available nationwide, and powered by real technology and real people who actually care. If you're ready to invest in your health span, not just your lifespan, head over to hivahealth.com and start your journey today. I should note that prescription medications must be prescribed by a licensed provider in your state, and individual results will vary. And with that, let's go ahead and get started on our episode. Thank you. Matthew Gerwien, thank you for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me
on the Generational Health podcast. I was just about to explain why I connected with you. So during fall break, we traveled up to Utah to do some family stuff. And while we were there, my childhood best friend, I got word Saturday morning that he had passed away. And he has been dealing with drug addiction for the better part of 17 years probably now. He and I grew up together. We played sports together. We really started to become friends in middle school. Went to different elementaries, and then in middle school we became really close. Played on the same club soccer teams together all through high school, and we were just best buds. Once we kind of got into our early 20s is where things kind of started to split a little bit. Mm-hmm. He kind of went down a path, and I kind of went another, and he had his challenges, and I was always there for him. But this was when I got word that he had passed, I was still in a lot of shock, because he was literally, so he had been living in his parents' house, which was still in that same town. It was like probably a mile away from where I was staying. So it really just hit close to home. So we were there. Fortunately, we were there for obviously the funeral services and everything, but this was one of those, this is one of those like really difficult, this was a hard one for me.
Oh yeah.
And seeing kind of how his life took this kind of a turn, and the challenges that he had, and how he tried so many times to pull himself out of it, and he couldn't. And then he got to a point where it felt like he managed it pretty well, and he could, so he was just kind of I don't know. It's like he just a functional addict. Is that a term? I guess that he seemed like he would just, he could function. He could hold a job. Anyway, well, I think obviously he knew the risks of what he was doing. Um, and ultimately he had what we believe was an accidental overdose, maybe something that was laced with something else.
Sure.
Um, and I didn't really have a lot of detail on when his parents found him and a lot of that, but it was kind of interesting because the night after the funeral, my wife and I went down to a local ice cream place and we ran into his cousin, who I also know. Like, we were the last ones there. They were closing down, and then all of a sudden, his cousin, who I know played soccer with him too, he comes walking in. I'm like, what the heck? I had all these burning questions, and I'm like, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? And just because I was really struggling, I had some guilt issues.
Sure.
I'm just like, I should have done more. I should have all the
Oh yeah.
things.
Oh yeah.
And anyway, I found out that his drug of choice was heroin, and I learned some other things about like how he would control it so that he wouldn't overdose. And anyway, so I got a bunch of just interesting information that helped me at least know that it was also accidental. Part of me didn't know for a bit if maybe this was on purpose. So that was tough too. But anyway, so all this happens. It was an emotional week for me, super emotional. We ended up coming home, drove home, got home. And the night I got home, I'm laying in my bed and I'm just flipping through Instagram. And I follow a lot of people that are either like in functional health or other
Mhm.
things here locally and around. And someone that you're connected to had posted a reel that you had put together.
It's
And
probably Sean. Sean's the man.
I think it was Sean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Shout out to Sean.
shout out to
So
Sean. So posted a reel and I start watching it, and it's you talking about your recovery, or your process of recovery
mhm.
and being sober from heroin. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me, because it was like I was in like this really vulnerable. I was still like really just, I'm trying to process all of it. I'm feeling a lot of guilt. I'm trying to figure out like how, like, you have this guy that was just one of the most well-rounded, amazing, athletic, talented humans,
Yeah.
and he got just trapped. And I thought, dude, how did this guy get out of it? I got to find out how this guy got out of it.
Sure.
And so I sent you a message on Instagram and you responded. So that's kind of how this came about. Was me just kind of, your story kind of popped up at a time where I was like, something I really needed to hear. And I was like, really just happy for you that you've been able to kind of transform your life into what you're doing now. And I just wanted to hear your story.
Sure.
Yeah, man. So I'll kind of turn it over to you. If you just
Okay.
want to maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and then feel free to go back as far as you feel like you need
Okay.
to lay the groundwork, but would just love to learn about your story.
Okay. If at any point what will help me the most is if I'm saying anything or telling a story or anything and you have a question, just like interrupt me and
You
go
got it.
boom, 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 boom. And then I can go, okay. So
Yeah.
it'll help me direct it, because otherwise I could hold everyone here hostage for hours. So it'll help me kind of pinpoint,
Okay.
this is what
I'll
I'm
keep track
interested
of
in.
time. Don't worry.
The first thing I want to say, and not just whenever somebody says they lost a friend or family member, people are like, oh, I'm so sorry. And like, they kind of mean it. I know exactly what that pain is like. I've lost several friends specifically to heroin addiction. And I had a friend, Sloan, that I sponsored or mentored for years, and went from being like a homeless junkie to becoming one of the most in-demand barbers in San Diego, and was like flown out to Warped Tour and stuff to cut barbers' hair, fought in court to get his child back, to like just totally rebuilt his life, and went from skinny to like jacked. Funniest dude ever, like God's gift to women. Like, I just loved being around him because I looked way cooler. And I knew this guy intimately from the inside and out. And during COVID, he relapsed and accidentally overdosed and died. And I remember I was notified through a text from someone I really don't know that well. And it was just said, hey, sorry about Sloan. And I'm like, what happened with Sloan? Like, oh, he passed. And I'm like, oh. And I just remember I'm not trying to put words or feelings in anybody else's mouth, but for me, it hurt so much more. And Sloan certainly wasn't the only one. I've lost grand sponsees and other friends, a lot of friends since I've been sober. And it's like a weird psychedelic pain because it just feels like it was too early and so unnecessary. And it's usually, like you said, maybe I'm biased because heroin was my drug of choice, but I tend to think the junkies are usually like the best people. They're usually very artistic, really charismatic, funny, creative, smart, and insanely talented in like some weird field. Not always, but oftentimes. And so when someone really special like that goes, and you're just thinking like it didn't have, they weren't shot or it wasn't something natural. It just feels like, to me, it hurts way worse because it's like it feels unnecessary. So with me, I was born in San Diego. I'm from San Diego, and I moved to Arizona when I was 8, and raised really religious, like had no interest in doing drugs or alcohol or anything like that. And then when I got to junior high, like peer pressure is real. The coolest kids were, it wasn't like, okay, it wasn't, hold on, let me gather my thoughts for a second. It wasn't like I got to junior high and the coolest kids are all hardcore heroin and meth addicts or something like that. Definitely not. But the rad kids that I gelled with the most, like, were up to no good, we'll say. And as we start going towards like 8th and 9th grade, suddenly everyone's smoking pot. And I'm like, oh, I've been through the DARE program and had a million warnings, like, don't even try one puff. And I kept, just say no, all that stuff. And I just said no, maybe like 10 times till one day I was like, let me hit that dog, And it slowly just kind of escalated from there, I suppose. Like, pot was super fun for me. And I didn't turn homeless or like a criminal or anything like that. Like, kind of the DARE program alluded, like, you're gonna become a total loser if you start smoking pot. So I'm like, what else is harmless? And then, long story longer, I think I was 16 or 17, and someone said, do you want to try some Red Rock opium? And I was like, yeah, totally. And for some reason, like, in my head, like, it just seemed super harmless. And so did it and felt awesome and got super high. And we were just smoking it at the time. And then, like, a couple months later, I had a buddy who just gotten out of rehab, and he was like, what are you doing these days? And I was like, dude, I have an opium connection. And he was like, no way, I've always wanted to try opium. So we get it and we're doing the drugs, and he says, hey, just so you know, this isn't, Matt, this isn't opium, right? And I've been doing it probably like 3 months. And I was like, no, it's a Red Rock opium. See how it's kind of like red? And he was like, no, this is black tar heroin. See how it's black and kind of tarish? And I was like, whoa. And by then it was kind of too late. I remember him saying, like, see, he's like, you don't want to get addicted to this stuff. This is what I just went to rehab for. Like, see if you can go 3 days without it. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I got super, super sick and really anxious. And I had no idea that I was like a full-blown addict at this point. And I think I made it 1.5 days or something. And then it just took off from there. And at the time, I was in a fairly, like, locally successful rock band. I had like a lot of friends and was doing a lot of shows, and everyone kind of has their drug of choice. And for me, at the time, it felt like it helped me write songs better, helped me feel more comfortable on stage, helped me fight way less with my girlfriend at the time. And then it went from that to like pawning everything that I own for it, getting fired from multiple jobs, stealing from employers, who I've since made amends to. and just stealing from family members, going to jail like multiple times, and just like really turning into not a good dude, and deeply, deeply suffering and not wanting to be like, nobody wants to be a drug addict. No one's like, when I grow up, I want to be addicted to heroin. That's going to be rad. And nobody trying it for the first time is even thinking that like, there's a million things that almost everybody can pick up and put down and no big deal. And you just kind of, at least for me, assume that it's going to be like that for everything. And so let's see. That's like the extent I think I want to get into about the war stories. Let's get into how I got sober after one sip of my basic bitch Starbucks matcha latte.
Matcha.
It was this or pumpkin spice. And this seemed a little bit more masculine to me for some reason.
That was more masculine. Okay.
Yeah, dude.
All right.
So, let's see. 19 at the time. And I probably weighed, I think like 108 pounds, maybe 100, like very, very, to put that in perspective, I'm around like 180 now. So just chop 70 pounds off of me. I still have the jeans that I was wearing. They were like girls 00 jeans, like just very, for any ladies listening, they know how small that is. And I had tried detoxing through like medical means, like Suboxone and outpatient, like everything. I tried every little trick to do it on my own and failed every single time. And eventually, I think I mentioned that I had, like, my mom was like, I'm going to move to Virginia to be closer to your sister Amy and help her with her kids. I want to be a grandma. And I'm like, that's great. Let's go. I want to change the scenery. And she's like, oh, no. You misunderstood. I'm going to Virginia. You're not coming with me. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And she's like, grow up. And it was probably the best thing my mom ever did for me. So I moved in with my brother and then started stealing from him. And then he kicked me out. My aunt's like, well, you can detox here and we'll take care of you. And then I started stealing from her. And it was just, everybody was done with me. And so kind of formulated this plan. I had a sister in Seattle and she was like, he needs to get away from his drug connections. Bring him to Seattle and he can detox here and I'll help rehab him back to health. And so my dad picked me up from, he was in San Diego, drove out here, picked me up. And my dad was a sober meth addict at the time. So he had experience with recovery. And I was, before he got me, we decided to take acid for the first time, which was, I don't know why I threw that in there. It's just a weird story. I hate acid and I'm detoxing from heroin, and which is, I wouldn't recommend to anybody. And so he picks me up and he's like, I'm going to take you to San Diego to detox, and then we're going to get you on a plane to go to Seattle. And I'm like, all right. I had no choice. Like I had no other options. It was that or jail or homelessness. And so I said, okay. And we get there and he just starts kind of pumping like recovery into my head and talking to me about spirituality and asking me, it's like, pray in the morning, like, God help me. And at night say, thank you for keeping me sober. And I'm like, that's dumb. I'm not doing that. And he's like, just humor me, just do it. And so I started doing that. And then he started taking me to some 12-step meetings, and I met some people, and they had invited me to a meeting at this sober living. Said, do you want to go? And I was like, no. And my dad's like, he'll be there for sure. So he takes me, and it's a sober living for like younger kids, like my age, like late teens, early 20s. And there's usually like a 3 to 6 month waiting list. And there just happened to be a bed that opened up, and they were like, do you want to move in? And I was like, no, I appreciate it. And my dad's like, what do you have better to do, dude? And I remember thinking, and I'm like, nothing. And he's like, please do this. And so I was like, okay. And I moved in, and that's kind of the start of the journey. How am I doing so far?
It's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay. Because every once in a while, someone has questions like, what does detox feel like? What does heroin itself feel like?
I might have some after, but
Okay.
just keep rolling, man.
The answer to what heroin feels like is it's awesome. There's a reason why people are addicted. So I'm in this sober living, and
so sober living is like a facility.
Yes,
is it a rehab facility?
Kind
or
of.
Is it like a?
That's a good question. So it's not a rehab. So I'm supposed to be detoxed by the time I go in there, and I definitely was not. But they would have kicked me out if they knew I was still detoxing. So while I'm withdrawing from heroin, I'm like on the couch going like, and they're like, "Hey, how you doing, Matt?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm just a little cold." And like I remember faking it for 3 days because I just felt like I don't want to get. I'm gonna do my best to not get too like spiritual and out there, but I just really feel like I had this feeling that I think was from God that was like, "This is your last chance. Like, don't blow it. You're never gonna get an opportunity to like detox in a nice place and get clean and sober. This is it." So, like a sober living, like a rehab. I've never been, but from what I understand, it's like they help you detox and there's like structured programs and a whole bunch of stuff. Sober living is typically like, there's some requirements, like you might get drug tested. You're going to live here. They might take you to meetings, help you get a job, stuff like that. You'll have a roommate, and it's like everybody together in the same boat, kind of getting sober and starting over. There's good ones and then there's terrible ones. And I don't know how regulated that industry is. So to anybody who has like a family member looking into it, like do some research first for sure, and see what their program is like and maybe even success rate and what they're doing. Because there's a lot of for-profit. It's like the worst thing in the world. Like it's like so gross. It's one of the things that like gets me more mad than anything is there's a lot of for-profit sober livings out there that don't do that much, but it's like, it's a great, incredibly lucrative business model, unfortunately, because a lot of people are suffering from drug addiction.
Yeah.
So they encouraged me to start going to meetings and get a sponsor, and these people just nursed me back to health. So it's like when it comes to recovering from hard narcotics, drug addiction, alcoholism, like I definitely have no interesting tips or tricks. It's like the mundane, like what you see in movies, what you hear. It's like go to meetings, get a sponsor, work 12 steps, and let the entire community nurse you back to health. But what I will say is the way it's displayed on movies or television is nothing what it's like in real life. It's the coolest, greatest thing ever. If you can find good meetings and a good fellowship, if people knew what it was actually like, they would pay thousands of dollars to be members of it. It's like, in my view, it's like the hand of God moving on earth. It's people who are showing up and volunteering for free and for fun to take people at their most fragile, most vulnerable moments and sit with them and guide them and nurse them back to health and strength and success and a big, sexy, healthy life. And because they've been through it themselves. And so I had gotten sober, done that stuff, and it was maybe like my life got incredible very fast, and moved out of the sober living after a year or so, started lifting weights and stuff, and moved in with someone who was sober and kind of stopped going to meetings as much. And he was like, I started drinking again. I realized I'm not an alcoholic. And I'm like, dog, I don't think I am either. Let's go. And relapsed, and just boom, I was gone for maybe another year or two. I always tell people like when they say like, okay, if you're a heroin addict, how come you don't drink? How come you don't smoke weed? How come you don't all this other stuff? I'm like, my weed bone is connected to my cocaine bone. That's connected to my black tar heroin bone, which is connected to jail and death bone.
Yeah.
So, let's see. I'm trying to condense a long story into like the bullet points.
So you relapsed. So
yes.
You started drinking alcohol, and that just kind of led to getting back into it. With your roommate as well.
So I was trying to like, I really had this fantasy of like the normal life. Like, what if I could just have a beer after work? What if I could just like go to the bar after work and like meet hot chicks and flirt? And what if I could just go to parties? What if I could keep it under control? That sort of thing. And And I think within like a week, I was like snorting coke. Like it was fast. I actually did not pick up opiates again on that run. But I thought about it every single day. Was like, this is not, I get drunk and I'd be like, this is not what you're looking for. I'd smoke weed and be like, this is not what you were looking for. And for me, it was like, I was never going to be that normal dude. And even with, and like people would say now, like, man, I just feel like if I could have a drink with you, it would be like the best time. And I'm like, no, it would, like, it wouldn't. It's once you're normal and you get a little bit of buzz, but like drunk Matthew is a guy who's trying to burn your house down, fight your cousin, and flirt with your girlfriend. And once the beast wakes up, it doesn't want to go back to sleep. So let's see. So that was during that period, I was able to go. Sometimes I would go like a week or two without drinking or something like that, but I'm like miserable the entire time, and I'm holding down a decent job. And I actually ended up moving to Seattle, like completed the mission where my sister and brother were living, and was like, I'm going to go to Seattle and like maybe start a cool indie band and just drink sometimes. And like the problem is San Diego, the problem is Arizona, the problem is everybody else. And I need to go to like a cool place where people will understand my terminal uniqueness, and I can just drink like a normal person and maybe dabble in psychedelics and it'll work out. And the exact opposite happened. I got more and more anxious, more depressed, more angry, to a point where I don't know how to describe it other than it just felt like a nervous breakdown. Like I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't keep the wheels turning. And so I did what all the tough guys do and called my mom and said, Mom, I want to get sober again. Can you help me? And she said, yeah, you can come to Virginia. And my mom, my sister, I knew what to do this time and went back to meetings. And but this time was different. The bottom for me was much worse because I feel like the first time my bottom was more of like a physical bottom, and this was like a total spiritual bottom. It just felt completely emotionally bankrupt, totally empty. Like my heart had just turned black and was just convinced like nothing was going to fix this, which is kind of what led me to, besides going back to like 12-step meetings and getting sober and working the steps. That's when I really started getting really interested in everything: meditation, vitamins, nutrition, exercise, anything extra that was going to help, therapy that would help this stuff. And that's a very interesting 16-year journey that led me to where I am now. But the biggest credit definitely goes to, I always say, like, if you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, like all the vitamins and exercise in the world is great, but it doesn't treat drug addiction, and it doesn't treat alcoholism. I need to take a break from talking. Do you have any questions or anything?
You don't need to take a break from talking. No, I'm loving just hearing the whole story. I'm just capturing a few things in my mind, and like there's some key takeaways that I'm extracting. And one to me feels like how important your family is in all this. I keep hearing like, so your dad had your dad had his own journey, but just being there for you, offering you really good advice, being able to turn back to your parents, and you got your siblings, and you got all these people that are here, like a support system. Am I hearing that correctly? Like,
you are hearing that correctly.
It seems like you have a pretty solid like support system around you. That's, even though you keep crashing, they keep stepping up, and they're there for you every time.
The reason why I laugh was because, if I'm honest, until just now, I don't think I've ever given them credit. I've never thought like, wow, they really did save my life, and they really did. Except for my dad, I've acknowledged that a lot. But I'm like, you're right. This story does not work without my family kind of stepping in and going, you can come here, you can come here. The key takeaway that I always like to mention to people is every time it was tied to me getting sober. It was never like, you can come here and keep using drugs. You can come here and keep stealing and robbing me blind. It was always like, so like the difference is, I mentioned earlier, my mom moved and was like, you're not coming with me. The second time was, Mom, I need to get sober again and I need help. And then she's like, come home. So, yeah, that's very interesting. I shouldn't take, oh no, now everybody knows I'm bald. So, so yeah, I always would, that's so funny. Yeah. I would always, stay by the mic. I would always attribute it mostly to, maybe it's because when I think about like my recovery journey and experience, I always think about the dozens and hundreds of different drug addicts and alcoholics who were sober, who sit at coffee shops with me, and my sponsors who took me through the steps and showed me how to completely adopt like a spiritual way of living, a way of love and service and gratitude, and how to make that my life, and how to, something I should have started with, that usually when I'm asked to like speak at bigger meetings and things, is I always, for anybody who's listening and struggling, because this was me when I first got sober, what I was most curious about was, do you still think about it? Like, do you still wake up? Is it like you wake up and you're like, I really want to get high, but I'm not going to today. Let's go for a run instead. And the answer is no, that is not my experience. I haven't thought about it. It has not been a problem in about 16 years.
Wow.
And I've been sober 16 and a half years.
So why do you think for you, I know you mentioned the first time was more of a physical low.
Yeah.
The second time that seems to be a defining turning point for you is what I'm hearing was a spiritual low. Why do you think it was a spiritual low? Like what was different about that for you? And then why do you think so many people, like, why do you think you were able to get out of it? Like, what was it that made it different for you to be able to get out of it, where so many others just continue to get stuck, where now you said you're 16 years past, and it's not something that you dwell on. It's like, it's not something that you're just like tempted with all the time.
Yeah.
Like, what a huge blessing that is.
Totally.
And I guess the question I have is why, like, what is it about your recovery that do you think made you successful?
That's a great question. So I think the reason why the first time I would say it's physical was because I wouldn't have gotten sober if I didn't have to. I was out of people to rob, lost my jobs. My girl was like, I'm over this. Like my band kicked me out. No friend, like everything's just gone. Nothing to pawn, nothing to sell, no car, no family left. And so it was like out of options. Like I heard like the best definition of a crisis is people are now making decisions for you. If it's like that, like the worst crisis, like you're in jail. And now they tell you when you can pee, when you can go outside, all of this stuff. And like your options just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, the more severe like a crisis is. The second time, why I say it was more of a spiritual bottom, was because the first time I could point to, it was always like, I could point to like, I was so sad and miserable because I lost my friends, or because I lost the girl, or because I lost the car or the job, all this stuff. The second time was the experiment failed. It was, can I just be like a normal dude and drink? And I thought I really could. And now I had a way cooler car than I did before. I had a job where I made decent money. I had a new girl. I had lots of friends, lots of people who loved me. I had all this stuff. And there was still just this hole inside. And so I couldn't blame it on anything anymore other than me, which is like not the most fun realization. It's like it's like you can't choose whether or not you're a drug addict or an alcoholic. Like some people, I've known people who have done the hardest, raddest drugs, and then they put it down and they can use it once every 3 months or something. Like no big deal. Super artsy. Like, yeah, I like to, it sounds like a joke, but it's not. Like, yeah, I'll smoke some meth and then just paint all night every once in a while. And I'm like, whoa. And like, yeah, when I'm feeling this, it's like, there's some people like that out there, very rare. But there's other people, they take a drink of alcohol and something just clicks. It's like they're coming home for the first time. Or whether that's weed, or in my case, it was heroin. And so say like you don't get to choose whether or not you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, but you get to, God willing, choose what you do with that information. And so I feel like I had reached a point, I'd been beaten into a state of reasonableness, that every experiment had failed, that it was like, nope, you're not going to be the normal drinking dude. This ain't working. And I didn't totally understand why that was for a long time, because I didn't understand the nature of recovery and what that actually looks like, and the difference between being sober and just not using. And I didn't understand also why it wasn't that, like, it's so cheesy, but it's like the reality, why it was that all this stuff didn't make me happy. And not saying like I was not like Elon Musk rich or something. Like, how come I in my brand new like G-Wagon, I'm not stoked. I didn't have that stuff, but in terms of things that I wanted, I had all of it, and I was not good. I was not like waking up like, man, what a blessed, beautiful day. It was like, very, very empty inside. Mm-hmm. And the answer to me is because what I've come to understand and what I believe is that if you're not just a heavy drinker or a heavy drug user, if you're the real deal, if you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, the drugs and the alcohol are just a symptom of what's going on. It's not actually the problem. And so if you're like just a heavy drinker and you stop drinking, everything gets better. Like your whole life gets better. You're like, oh man, I'm not hungover anymore, and I can exercise, and I'm not late for work, and things are going great. But if you're the real deal and you stop drinking, you stop using, everything gets worse. And the reason is because you're using that as medicine to treat what's going on inside. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. It made me wonder too, like, I mean, you had to have learned a lot about yourself during. So how many years were you in and out? Like,
so I got sober for about a little over a year.
You kind of started doing like heavier drugs when you said you were 16.
Yeah.
So 16 until when did you get
19? 19, I was almost 20, I think. Yeah. So about 4 years running gun.
4 years. Okay.
But I didn't get hardcore till I was 16. I started smoking pot and drinking when I was 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So looking back on it, I mean, you learned a lot about who you are during that time. You know, pushed a lot of boundaries, I'm sure. You learned a lot about the relationships around you and probably those that were always there for you. Kind of find out who your real friends are probably through all that too.
Sure. Yeah.
Would you, I mean, I know it was probably a painful time, but I mean, would you change any of it?
No.
And why is that?
Because I'm doing my best to kind of keep the God talk at a minimum, because I don't want to scare anybody away. But for me personally,
you can talk about God.
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
Talking about the spiritual part of my recovery is like talking about the wet part of the ocean. So like my personal belief is that God speaks to all his children in a language that they understand. And for me, a lot of times I need to get my teeth knocked out, and that there was just nothing that was going to, when I look back at my path, it couldn't have been any other way, because I'm the guy who's defiant by nature, who wants to test everything. And so had I not gone through what I had gone through, like say my band like ended up taking off and I wasn't forced into getting sober, I'd be dead. If the second time when I reached the spiritual bottom, had I not gone back into meetings or recovery, I probably would have blown my brains out. And so, I don't know, like, I think in like, everyone has a different story. And for me, they'll say like your bottom was when you stopped digging. And so there's a lot of, which is true. Like you don't necessarily need to lose you don't need to lose everything to get sober. Like if you have a problem, like if you have a sincere desire to stop and you want to get help, like you can make it happen. You can. But for me, I think I just had to fail every way possible to really see like, nope, because there was always something in the back of my head, like, well, what if, now I'm in shape, before I wasn't in shape. Now I work out and stuff. So surely like I can like control it now, and I couldn't. And that's one example of many, many, many. So I personally believe that that my higher power was with me every step of the way, guiding me and leading me to where I am now, which is not like life. There's still challenges in life. I'm not floating on a cloud made out of unicorns and like Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders or something. Like there's still tough things, but it's like there's like this old metaphor is like the world is not different, but I am. And so, have you ever heard that story of like the two monks walking on a road barefoot? This metaphor?
I feel like I have.
Okay.
But I'm struggling to piece it.
I love this one. So this is like a good metaphor for recovery for me. There's two monks walking on a road barefoot, and they keep walking on rocks. And one of them's like, man, like this sucks. My feet hurt. Someone really should just pave this whole road in leather. And the other one goes, or we could just wrap leather around our feet and that will stop the rocks. And so like the idea is like one person's thinking, once the entire world changes, then I'll be okay. And the other one's like, or you can change yourself and be okay. And so that was my experience. And then even throughout being sober and recovery, I did tons of stuff the wrong way and tons of dumb stuff. And every step was just kind of leading me to a better place and a better understanding of myself, and hopefully a place of more love and service and fulfillment and closer to God.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I love that metaphor, actually. That's awesome. So you are now, so tell me a little bit about what you're doing now for work.
Okay.
And how you kind of got into that. And I'd love to know how the experiences you've had, spiritual, mental, because I believe obviously like the physical health is very connected with our mental health too.
Sure, of course.
And I would imagine that you're probably uniquely qualified to help people with a lot of personal challenges. Because to your point before, like whether it's heroin or whether it's food, addiction exists on both.
Totally.
And a lot of people end up like overeating, or they can't stick to something, or they self-sabotage, or they don't think they're worthy. Those are generally just symptoms of another issue. So, which makes me think that you're uniquely qualified to help people now. Like you've experienced so many things that can really, your perspective can bless people's lives in a unique way that I don't have the experiences that you do. I have my own. Right. And so I can, but you have some really cool, unique, life-changing experiences that have probably shaped your career now and what you're doing. So we'd love to learn about that and what you're doing, and maybe how you feel like you are kind of in a unique situation to help people.
Okay. Thank you. I hope so. I hope I can be, my desire is to be effective to as many people as possible. First and foremost, my daughter, which is like, I always say like everything good that's in my life is in some one way or another come from as a result of recovery. So like when I had my daughter, I was like, whoa, like how do I be a dad? Like I'm a drug addict, dude. And there was dozens and dozens of men who were like, this is what it looks like. This is what your focus is going to look like. Everything is now about her from this point till when you die. She's number one. And to people teaching me tricks on like how to soothe the baby and like chest compression and like everything. So I went in well equipped. So it's like, I don't know. I always put that out there. One of those things where I'm like, recovery is not what people think it is. It's not sitting in a basement at some weird smelly church being like, I sure do want to use drugs and drink today, but I'm not gonna. And then everyone goes, oh, good for you. It's not like that at all. So now it's funny, I'm actually transitioning careers right now. I've been basically like a calisthenics or gymnastics strength training coach for maybe 10 years. I worked in like a fine dining restaurant for a lot of my recovery, and then I got obsessed with part of my journey was training in a lot of different modalities. It first started with bodybuilding. Like someone gave me early on in recovery, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of interested in like lifting weights. Because a girl I had a crush on was like, yeah, I like guys who have muscles and six packs. And I'm like, noted. But I was talking to a buddy and he gave me Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding. And I snorted up that book like it was cocaine. I was like, whoa. Like, so I spent time bodybuilding. I had a period where I was into powerlifting. I've done yoga probably for 20 years. That was one of the first interventions when I got sober again. I was like, oh, maybe I need, maybe it's yoga that I need. And it definitely helped. Was training jujitsu and Muay Thai for a period. And then just something hit me where I got like, I saw a video of someone doing a straddle planche and a front lever and a handstand push-up, and I got like hyper obsessed. And I was just like, I'm fucking jacked and I definitely can't do that. And that bothers me. And so switched up everything. And then COVID hit. So I was working before COVID, I was working at a gym, and then COVID hit and everything shut down. And my personal training had already transitioned to, because I was in San Diego. So there's like this beautiful place called Morley Field where there's tons of like big eucalyptus trees and ficus trees. And if you have gymnastics rings, you can just toss them over a branch and just start training. And so during COVID, I was like, if anybody wants to come still train, wants to work outside with me, hit me up. And I blew up. And then I had been practicing Qigong for probably 10 years at that point, and just started offering Qigong classes and meditation coaching. And people were stuff that I thought people would never be interested in, because I just, like most people, have a lot of weird, interesting hobbies. And people were super interested. Fabletics like sponsored one of my Qigong classes at one point. So I got hyper obsessed with that. And I loved not having to pay, I forget what it's called, I guess commission to a gym, like, and that I could just work for myself. And people really, really loved that training. And I was uniquely qualified to do it in San Diego because there just wasn't that many people at the time offering that type of training. And I still, to this day, like I still love it. Like there's nothing cooler and more rewarding to me than seeing someone go from weak to strong, or go from having self-esteem issues to confidence, seeing people just change their whole physicality, their whole lives, their whole life through training. People who are stiff get flexible. And so I love like working with someone over months and months and years and seeing them like develop. I have clients that I've worked with for over 5 years, and it's like they'll send me a video like, look at me doing this. And every once in a while, like a total sissy, I'll start weeping. I'm like, I remember when he couldn't even do a pull-up or a push-up, and look at him now. So like I still love that, but I'm in school right now. I'm transitioning because I got a little over a year ago, this was never my plan. I thought I was going to coach forever, and hopefully I still like can in some capacity. I still got people I'm working with, and I still have spots. I can always I'm mostly just doing online training now. But a little over a year ago, I was seeing my nephew graduate from the U of A, and on the drive back, someone drove over the median and hit us head on, 75 miles per hour, both cars going, drove over, boom. And I took the majority of the impact. This is what they tell me. I don't remember, because they said the way that I swerved was to try to protect I was with my daughter and my mom in the car. So boom, hit us. And they didn't know I was like leaking cerebral spinal fluid in the hospital. And everyone thought I was either going to die, be severely physically or mentally incapacitated, or have like serious challenges moving forward. And thank God that's not the case. Within 4 months, I was doing handstands again. I had a miraculous
How long
recovery.
ago was this?
This was May 11th, 2024.
Holy, okay.
Yeah. And so when I was in the hospital, the nurses were my heroes. Like, I remember my jaw was my face got smashed in. Like, this all had to be like reconstructed, and my jaw was, I think, like split, and so my jaw was all like wired shut. And I remember this one nurse, June, he was like, "Okay, we need to come take your temperature." And I was like, "Oh, you gotta do my armpit because I can't open my mouth." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And he was like, "Or if you want, I can get an extra long thermometer and take it through your rectum if that would be better." And like, I started like laughing and cry, like just like I hadn't laughed in weeks. And it was like the best. The nurses would come in, talk to me, hang out with me, tell me their stories, and something just switched, where two things happened after an accident like that, where I thought I was going to die. No, I didn't think I was going to die. Everybody else did. I had this feeling that like this higher power that I've been praying to for over 16 years is actually aware of me. And I say that with like reverence and humility, because I hate to be like, he loves me and other people get to die. Like, it's not like that. But I just felt like, I don't know, that hopefully I was saved for a reason. Hopefully there's some kind of meaning to that. But after that experience where I feel like I lived through a miracle, it changed my entire spirituality completely, and did a lot more studying. And I wanted to, the best way to describe it is my focus and desire shifted. I used to really want to help people. Like, I want you to become the best version of yourself. And now I'm like, I want to take care of God's children when they're at their weakest, most vulnerable, and be a strength for them. So I'm transitioning. I'm in school right now for nursing. And then shout out to Sean, the TRT MP, is encouraging me to go all the way to the nurse practitioner path to work in functional medicine, to hopefully combine all my years of training, meditation, understanding the supplements, peptides, all of that stuff. But I was talking to someone really cool the other day, where I'm like, I want to do all of it. I want to clean the wounds. I want to wipe the butts. I want to bathe the old men, not because I want to see an old guy's wiener or something, but like, like I remember what it was like, being in this terrible position and just feeling like that's what I want to do. I want to, so that's part of what brought me to Arizona. A lot of family support to help me with my daughter, so I can pursue this path. And I just wanted to go all in, because to me, throughout my experience in recovery, there's been a lot of things that I thought, if this happened, then I'll never be sad again. It was like, if I can do a handstand push-up, I'm never going to be sad again. If I can get like super jacked, then I'm going to be good. If I can make X amount of money, then I'm going to be good. If I can date the hottest chick I know, then I'm going to be good. And I'm blessed that I was able to do all those things. And guess what, man? I got sad again. I got not like depressed, but like it was never what I thought it would be. And what I realized for myself, the only two things that ever really brought me meaning and fulfillment, is one, relationships, and the other is being of service. And I think, like, I remember my daughter the other day said someone, so-and-so is a superhero. And I know who this person is. And I'm like, no, they're not. And she goes, what's a hero? And to me, the definition is very clear. It's somebody who will sacrifice something of themselves to help either one other person or the greater good, with no real benefit. No. And so it's like in my mind, a lot of people might not see it that way, but in my mind, I'm like in the middle of the hero's journey. Like it feels like a calling. Like I'm like, I want to go. I want to be a nurse. I want to wipe the butts. I want to clean an old guy's wiener. I want to.
Not in a weird way.
Not in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty dang noble. I will tell you my mom just got out of the hospital yesterday. She was in the ICU for 5 weeks. She had they still haven't fully diagnosed her with anything. They're treating her for an autoimmune encephalitis disorder, which basically was inflammation in the brain, which caused seizure-like activity, stroke-like symptoms, but it wasn't any of those. They do think she had a series of seizures because of it, but having her in the ICU, nearly die several times, was tough. It was all during this time I was up there for my friend's funeral. This was all the same. Same period. So it was a lot going on.
Yeah.
And so it was a long road to recovery, but dude, I can tell you the nurses that are in there, there's a couple exceptions that weren't great.
Sure.
But I can't tell you how grateful we were as a family to have good nurses.
For sure.
Because they're the ones, the doctors come in and they check on you once a day or whatever. Right. The nurses are with you 24/7.
Totally.
And when you have someone that's willing to like you feel helpless as like a family member watching your loved one and trying to maintain their dignity when their gown is up and they're incontinent or all these things. And you have these nurses that come in like superheroes and they're just like, it's not a big deal. We got it. And they're taking care of the people you love the most.
Yeah.
Dude, that's huge. And so I'm like, I'm just super impressed with you, man. I think that's going to be awesome. And I think you're going to have plenty of opportunity to wipe butts for sure. But once you get past a lot of that, you're going to have the opportunity to serve so many people in that capacity. And then further as you go on and become a nurse practitioner, that'll be pretty amazing.
Thank you.
I know we're running short on time.
Okay.
So, just kind of to
Man,
wrap,
it flies by.
It does. I just in wrapping things up, there were a couple questions I did want to ask. One would be, if you could go back and tell your 14-year-old self anything now that you've come this far and you've experienced all this kind of stuff, what advice would you give your 14-year-old self? Or what would you say to that individual, knowing what you know now? That'd be my first question before I get to my next one.
It's it's the same exact thing I would say to anybody, and including Matthew right now, which is like, in my mind, the two most important. So like everything that I've been through, there's a lot of actions that I took for sure. Like, but I take credit for none of it. Like, I think I really attribute my entire life and any successes to God, like 100%. And so I would tell him like, love and trust God. What's like there's going to be some Christian who's like, man, you jumbled that verse. But the verse is like, you can sum up the whole thing with two things, like love your neighbor as yourself and love the Lord God with all your heart, mind, and spirit. And so I would tell him that, and I would tell him, you are not made out of paper. Keep going. Like, one of the things that bugs me more than anything, and I keep it to myself because I try not to be like judgmental, and like, I know what it's like to be struggling with something, but there's so many times, I'm not one of those guys who's like, no excuses, but there's so many times where there's people I know and love and have just convinced themselves that they're way more fragile than they are. That it's like, if I'm not taking like you said, like a plastic bottle, like the microplastics, like, yeah, that's not great, but it's not going to stop your momentum. It's not going to, like, I think humans are way more resilient than people realize. And so it's like, the message is like, go for it. Everything, whatever, like, that's basically it. It's like, I've been trying to think about this for a while, like a metaphor of just like, it's like you want to be like almost like a bull in like a bullfighting ring. Like, no matter how many swords are going in you, and like the goofy matador being like, nope, it's not here. Just keep going. And eventually, like, if you don't stop, what's that cheesy thing they say? It's like, if you're not dead, the show's not over. And me personally, from surviving motorcycle accidents, drug overdoses, anxiety, depression, everything, getting hit by a car and get my face smashed in. It's like, keep going. Like, you can do it. And people are way more capable than what they think they are. Because even while I was recovering from that injury, I was still raising my at the time, my 2-year-old daughter basically solo. Like, it was gnarly, but like, it's one of those things where when we look at it, the things that are the gnarliest are always the best for you. It's like, like cold plunges and saunas have gotten so popular recently, but everybody wants to sit in a nice chair in an air-conditioned room. And it's used to be even like an album. You put on a record and you listen to the whole thing, or a CD. We're not the record generation, but you read the lyrics and stuff, and now it's like, what song specifically am I into for this mood right now? I'm happy, but also kind of a little bit anxious. So let's do like running, lifting weights, exercise. Like these things suck and they're painful in the moment, but it's better for you. Everything that sucks makes you better.
Yeah. And I like the word momentum. I think you keep the momentum and it keeps going.
Yeah.
Okay. And my last question, given that this is the Generational Health Podcast, one question I like to ask guests is, what does the concept of building generational health mean to you?
First of all, the title of your podcast is so dope, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's genius. When you messaged me, I was like, what's the podcast? And I was like, that's sick. That's very clever. If I had to do my best, if I'm thinking like what I would tell my daughter, is like, it's not about resources, it's about resourcefulness. And so for me, like, my hope is with my daughter that she will see everything that I'm doing. Like they say, kids are like, you can tell them stuff, but they're sponges, they're watching you. And so since she's been a baby, I never stopped running. Put her in the stroller and let's go. And she's 4 years old now and loves it to this day. She's stronger than any other kid because she grew up around pull-up bars and witnessed. She used to come with me to sessions and would see people hanging and stuff. She sees what I eat. She sees me pray. I teach her to pray. She sees me practice meditation. She sees me coaching clients. She sees me deciding at this stage in my life, I want to go back to school and wipe people's butts. That's going to be the joke, the running joke. Wipe people's butts and clean old guys' wieners. But the whole idea is see me interacting with people who are seeing me be of service in multiple areas of my life, whether it's just to friends or families or to people who are struggling with drug addiction and alcoholism, or my clients who are trying to learn meditation, who are trying to treat in a different way, a more holistic way, their mental health problems or their physical problems, all this stuff. So to me, if I had to say what's generational health is, if you have children, but even if you don't, like, by living it. Because the people, even if you don't have kids, the people around you are learning and they're watching you and they're adapting, and that will carry on. I hope that's a good answer.
I think you're right. I don't think there's a wrong answer.
Well,
that's awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing your story. And I'm sure we could talk a lot more. You're a chatty guy and you're very easy to talk to.
Thanks.
So
Likewise.
I'd love to stay connected with you.
For sure.
And excited about next phase of your career. And when do you start school?
I'm in school right now.
Oh, you started already?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Man, it flies by.
All right. Well,
at any point, if you want to hear, let me know if you ever want to hear the story of recovering from a severe traumatic brain injury, because that, in my view, is way more gnarly than the recovery story.
Well, we'll have to do that next then.
Cool,
man. Well, thanks for coming in.